Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I am your host. I am your expert life strategist. I am Karina Calhoun, and I'm super excited to have yet again another amazing human being on the show today. Today we have Dr. Anne Marie, and I'm super excited about this conversation because I know it's going to be fire. You all know I say this prior to the interviews because I just believe that the folks that come on this show are really coming to deliver their passion. That's just it in a nutshell. And today is no different. Dr. Anne Marie is going to bring it. Dr. Anne Marie, how are you today?
Oh, thank you for asking. It is a beautiful spring day, and I am taking that sunshine and like trying to spread it everywhere I go.
I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Dr. Anne Marie, tell us, where in the world are you?
Oh, well, that's kind of a tricky question on any given day, actually. I am living the life. I've been living this last year and a half, almost 2 years now, between three states. So
Mm,
currently I am in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
okay.
My residence is in Sarasota, Florida. And I also spend a lot of time up in northern Michigan. And there's a whole story about all three of those places that we won't get into today, but I just feel very blessed.
I love that. I love that. And indeed, it does sound like you are. I am actually from Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is not far from Chapel Hill.
True.
So, and I lived in Charlotte for 17 years. So, those are, that's my area right there.
Fantastic. Well, we were meant for our paths to cross then.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, Dr. Anne Marie, tell us, please, because I am intrigued. Tell us how you have been loving on the world around you. But before we get to that, your background is absolutely spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
I want you to tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, another like would take all day kind of thing. So I'll try to give you the condensed version. Um, I I was fortunate education chose me. I did not choose it. And I'm so glad that it did because I have seen from point to point how each experience that I've had in serving students across K-21 has brought me to where I am today. So I don't like to speak titles. I speak more about service.
Mm,
And so I've been able to service students from infant to adults for over 30 some years now. And I'm a bit of an anomaly because I do it in different ways. For example, when I received my PhD, I then did my national boards afterwards. And then I also saw that I needed to reconnect with the classroom because I had been in some different leadership positions. And so I just chose to take a teaching position.
mhm.
A lot of people referred to it as stepping down, and that was really offensive to me because to me, it was about making sure that I could continue to strongly serve. So, so then I had all this excitement and all of these opportunities that I had been honestly select it for because I didn't see the amazing things in my life. Now that I'm getting older and looking back, I'm like, wow, this has been an incredible journey. Um, and I've had a part in that. And so it's been a really great reflective process to connect to that part. And in doing so, I realized that I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with these next 30 some years? And for me, it was like really recognizing the pattern and themes throughout all of the different ways that I've been able to serve. And what I recognized was that equity is void. Recognize the power of people's um, thinking and people's perceptions, and really wanted to focus my work now on looking at awareness and education and that human-centric approach so that everybody can be loving on one another. Really focusing on the value and the beauty of diversity and inclusion. And so that's where I'm at now. I started a nonprofit almost 2 years ago, and I've been getting to meet incredible people, getting to have amazing conversations and spreading the word that we do have it within us to see things differently. My slogan is everywhere I go, I preach it, I scream it, I yell it, I sing it, because it is really important to me that we take advantage of the time that we're in and change the trajectory of our nation and of our world.
I absolutely love this that you're doing and how you're literally taking your purpose and your vision and you're living it out loud.
Mhm.
And what I see is that you're living it in color. And one thing that, I like to tell people is a lot of times, whether you're black, white, whatever ethnicity you are, if you say, I don't see color, then we have a problem. And
Exactly.
so, what I see in your background is, yes, we have to think differently. We can't see in gray, we have to see in color. But when you see in color, you see so many dimensions of people and life around you. And that is just absolutely amazing. I love it. So, tell us a little bit more about how you're loving on the world around you.
Okay, well, I started with I'm a researcher at heart. I grew up in a large family, youngest of 5 children, with always a house full of people around. And so I became a very good observer. I became a very good qualitative researcher. And so it wasn't hard for me to start thinking about, just like you said, people often think that they're not saying anything wrong with saying they don't see color. And it's like, okay, but you're excusing the beauty of it. You're marginalizing others in your well-intended statement, right? Because I believe that we have it within us. One of the things that I started doing is right away, I started developing an equity consciousness assessment. And I have the teaser test on as a pop-up on my website because it's really important to me that people get to be confronted in a safe place with items just like you just mentioned. And then that reality check too, right? When we were young, I don't know about you, but I used to love like getting my sister's 17 magazine and doing those little quizzes in it. And it would tell you, well, this tells you, are you living unconsciously or are you living consciously and what that range looks like? But then for me, you can't just know. Knowing is one thing, but changing
Mm,
the way that you act is another. And so then I spent time developing equity edits, which is a resource. It's 6 sessions, if you will, or 6 chapters. It's an ebook that people can go in and either with a group of friends, with a group of ladies at their church, or with a professional learning community in their organization, look at, well, what is it that I have a tendency to do here? And how can I change it?
mhm.
And so this first year and a half, almost 2 years, has been dedicated to the development of that work, and then also doing pilot studies with it and getting insights from people to make sure that I was on the right page and really looking at it from a multitude of angles.
Mm, I love that. I love that. So, what has been your feedback from individuals who have encountered you with just the quiz and then the edits and different things of that nature? I love that you said that this is a safe space for them to do that, because what we don't want to do is harm in the name of education.
Right.
We just do not want to do that, because that absolutely completely defeats the entirety of the purpose, because you want people to come together And so bruised and battered, people are going to shrink back. And
Mhm.
so I love that you're doing this in a safe space so that mistakes can be made, comments can be made that says, okay, that's not right. Let's see why. And now let's move forward. I love that you're doing this.
Yeah, thank you. And another thing is too, I'm not charging for these materials.
Mm,
There's no cost for someone to take the teaser test or to go into the equity edits and take the full assessment and use those resources. Because to me, it's about coupling the um, new knowledge with the resources to be equipped to make that change. So like my work then settles in when people want coaching or want me to come to their organization and lead some of the sessions and things like that. Um, and so what I find that people are just so grateful
mm,
to be able to say something out loud. Our thoughts have great power. And if we can say it out loud and talk through what's behind it and how it could potentially be offensive, or how, without knowing it or even knowing it, some of us were raised in different ways that we just took on and didn't realize was impacting others in a negative way. So I've had a lot of positive responses and like 5 stars with the equity edits when I had the pilot study work through that. I had so many people that were just like, all I can say is like, thank you. I'm going back through different portions of the tendencies now to make sure that I stay sharp on my game and continue to grow. Because the secret at the end is we all need the work and it's
yes.
never done,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So no one has that golden ticket that is going to
Mhm,
be your exit out the door. It is like, no, we're all working on it. And I'm not rationalizing it. We all have our own stuff. We all look
mhm,
at the world in different ways. And then we have new experiences that alter or might cause us to go back to an old way of thinking, or might have us wondering like how we can do better in that
mhm.
situation or scenarios. So lots of fantastic insights. What was really great and what I enjoy is when people take the teaser test. Um, I'll interact with a lot of people on LinkedIn through the messaging and try to send a birthday message to everybody who's in my network. And then I'll like ask them to do something kind for someone, and their birthday celebration will last throughout the year, the feeling of it. And then we might start a conversation. I'll be like, hey, are you interested in taking this teaser test? And then they'll come back and they'll say, thank you, done. Or they'll say, wish I had a text box for this question. I've been
Wow.
thinking about it over these next few days. And so then I can engage with them in, oh, well, what do you think? And share those thoughts with me if you're willing. And just the insights and the connection to, wow, I didn't realize that I was taking on other people's perceptions just by being
Mm,
silent, right? That was a big one. And then also that recognition constantly of, well, my culture is superior because it's what I know. And so there's tendencies, when I was in the classroom, I heard this all the time from other educators. Oh, well, they're always late because they're of this ethnic,
mhm, mhm,
right? Or, oh, well, this is happening because of this. And I'm like,
mhm.
no, our system is broken in, in how we meet the cultural relevancy that is on offer. And so just great insights and great conversations. The focus groups were powerful to me because I had people who signed up to do it. It was an agreement for them to complete a survey that had open text and then as well as, like star ratings and things. And it was exciting to know because I'm not an official designer, but I am a creative. So it was exciting to know that the way that it's presented is appealing.
Mhm.
But then it was really great for them to not stop there. for them
Mhm.
to share about what their insights were with the content and how offering language frames at a certain point to help them recognize it's just a change in the way that they're saying things that can offer so much more positivity and love on others instead of being seen as potentially negative or marginalizing.
Mm.
Um, they also were really insightful about, and I was really glad that they picked up on this, really insightful about their own self-actualization
Mm.
and what was the root of what was happening.
Now, let me ask you this because I just listening to everything you're saying, it, this simple thought just keeps coming through my mind. And that is, and this is, I believe, because I have, as a visionary, I tend to see things from the 30,000 foot view.
Mhm.
And so even though this is specifically geared around equity and changing that thought process, seeing in color versus the grayscale,
Mhm.
how does this then transfer to someone's personal life in relationships, personal relationships with family, friends? I mean,
Mhm.
folks that typically would have nothing to do with anything that you're saying, but because they're learning this new mind shift, it's allowing them to really be in relationship with those closest to them in another just real and authentic way.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because I was just working with a marketing consultant for a brief period of time. And one of the things that she kept coming back to me with was, but you got to like get your target audience. Who are your people that you're really like going after? Because that's a marketing strategy. And I said, well, this is the problem. It is for everyone. It's not just, I come from an education background, but it's not just for educators. When you engage with these materials and when you think on the line of being more equity conscious, you honestly are changing every touch point you have. Your sphere
Yeah.
of influence is altered.
Mm.
And so it's multi-generational. It's not written for men of this age group or this particular organization. It's written for human centrism. It's
Yes.
written to ensure that we are not just like doing a professional learning community in our school and walking away from the campus and not transferring that to the person we're in line with in the grocery store
Mhm. Mhm.
or
Mhm.
that we bump into in the parking lot going into the soccer game.
Mhm.
So in my blogs on my website, I write a lot about context outside of organizations
Mhm.
and how my own misconceptions or misunderstandings were challenged. And by building that confidence in my not knowing and being willing to reach out to the person in line who looks a little different than me. And I'm not staring because I think there's something wrong with them. I'm staring because I just want to know their story.
Mhm.
And I'm an introvert and it's not common for me. Like I would more than likely be the person that someone would be like, oh, she's so standoffish just because I'm so like shy in public scenarios like that. So for me, like just working on all of this has helped me to be braver and ask permission, not just say to someone, um, like if they're short on what they're trying to pay for their items for, not just being like, here, let me pay for it so you'll get out of my way, but ask them permission, say, hey, I'm Anne. I'm so sorry. Like, do you need another? Like, I've got a 5 here, or why don't I just put this item on mine and then you can take it?
That's good.
If you're comfortable with that and not just assuming that that person is in a certain state because they're short on what they need to pay. You know,
Exactly.
it's that human centrism. It's like recognizing them as your brother, as your sister, as your other, like just knowing that everybody is going through their own stuff and they may not be willing to share it with you, but it doesn't mean that you can't still treat them with kindness and treat them with love. Um, Another thing that's really important to me is giving voice to people who have been marginalized.
Mhm.
So, like this year, a project that I'm working on is, I'm almost set with a illustrator. But working on a set of children's literature that is a little bit more adultish, but the design of it and the intent of it is to start getting the mindsets open through the adults that engage with the children with the books. And then also the books will be provided to like hospital waiting rooms in the children's ward, or to go home with the babies when they're born. That's the vision for it, to start young while having that influence on adults and the elderly, so that we can really ensure that those voices that have been marginalized have a place in our history and are valued and are honored.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I can absolutely relate, just kind of tracking back a little bit. I too am an introvert. And so I have learned how to not do the stare, because just like you, I'm not staring because I'm like that person is weird. I'm staring because really truly would like to know what is that person's story. What's, whether good, bad, or indifferent. I'm a human being that loves human beings. I just love being alone
Yes.
because I'm an introvert, but I completely understand that. So I want you to tell us, Dr. Anne Marie,
Mhm.
how can we get in touch with you? And what does that initial contact look like? I know you talked about that initial quiz, but
Mhm.
once that happens, what does it look like getting in touch with you?
Yeah. So when you receive that teaser test, you have the option to be on our mailing. And so then I was just going through a campaign this last 7 days. So and I sent a precursor email, heads up, you're going to get something from me every 7 day or every day for 7 days. But then we'll keep it to like once a month. So that's available, but then there's also hello at seethingsdifferently.org. When you go into the bottom of the email, it says contact us, and that comes directly to me. I just have it differentiated from the founder at seethingsdifferently.org because I'm trying to make sure that I spend time with each different element. And the founder part is more for when I'm interacting with people to get the message out or to collaborate on projects and things like that. And then the hello is for me to be able to connect with people who are like working through the edits or taking the assessment. So that's on offer. And then I'm also present on social media now as well. I had taken a break just before we began the launch, when I was creating the website and working on the 501(c)(3). I unfortunately lost my sister, who's
Your
18
condolences.
months older than me. Thank you. And it was really hard. And I didn't want to be on social media pretending that I was something that I
Yeah,
wasn't at that time. Um,
yeah.
and so I was able to like grieve that in a way and get myself to a place where I can be more honoring.
Mhm,
Because I know you never know on social media with people, but for me, it's about being authentic.
mhm, mhm,
So I'm back on social media, and at the same time, am just developing and opening up access to the business side of
mhm,
the social media. So you can go to on Facebook, it's See Things Differently, SEE Inc., underscore Inc.
mhm,
And then on Instagram, it's See Things Differently .org. And that way you can keep up with what's happening, because I'm going to be starting to do some live things. I'm having a women's event
mhm,
so that we can value our stories and really have a positive impact on the legacies we leave. So I'm kind of everywhere now, and very approachable. Even though I'm an introvert, I'm very
Gotcha.
approachable.
Love it. So tell us, you mentioned briefly about a blog. So tell us a little bit about your blog.
Yeah. So I started with this phase idea in my mind because, I'm come from a background of education and I'm not a business person, but to me it made sense to start to get the information about equity consciousness and what that entails with different tendencies into blog format. So what I did was I spent that first year and a quarter writing and doing it in shorter pieces that I also did an audio recording for, because people are busy and maybe they want to just listen to it in the car on their way home or while they're eating their lunch. So it's nothing fancy, it's just me. But it takes the concept of equity consciousness, and then it takes these tendencies that we have to rationalize or to normalize, or the deficit view or diversity erasure. And it brings in, I always like to bring in vignettes. So I always put it into real life. And it might bring in a little research because I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to things like that. So that's all. That's what the blog items entail. And then this year I've been working on more collaborations. I had built up my connections and my network on like LinkedIn,
Mhm.
um, because it was a way for me to get different perspectives and ideas from people and share ideas. And then my network has gotten quite large. So this year I'm like, I want to connect with people.
Mhm.
So I've been doing more like meeting for virtual coffee, or I actually just got to meet with someone that I met on LinkedIn Live because Burlington was halfway for us. And
Mhm.
so we
Wow,
met for
yeah,
one day,
yeah.
right? And that's been really phenomenal, being able to be connected with people at a deeper level. Um, so I'm kind of all over the place, kind of really enjoying everybody. And the blog itself has grown into doing more podcast. I call them conversations instead of interviews because that's what I'm more comfortable with. And doing more live stream. And when I meet with people and they're like, oh, I'm working on this, I'm like, oh, well, hey, let's jump online and do something together. So I'm kind of working on doing that part. And if you go to the community page on my website, that's where the blog is, where you can access the blog. And then you'll see these coming soon. And that's just Anne trying to do all of the pieces of the business, kind of like
Gotcha.
us behind the curtain. I need to get, things like our conversation today up on
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Because to me, that's another way to help people see that we're all in this work together,
Yes,
and that I'm here and more than willing to service people with a heart.
absolutely. I love it.
Mhm.
So I would like to ask you if there are any last words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience. This has been absolutely amazing, and I'm hoping that it has begun a shift in mindsets of those that are listening because, just like you said, no one has that golden ticket to exit. We all, I don't care at what level, what juncture you find yourself in life, there's always room to shift more. And
Absolutely.
so I just really, really believe that that is something that I harp on constantly, constantly. And so that is my hope and prayer for this particular conversation today, this episode. So, Dr. Emery, any last words of wisdom for those listening?
Yeah, I would just say, don't feel like you have to have it all figured out, and don't feel like you are this horrific person because you don't. But do the next time, listen to your gut, listen
Mhm.
to your intuition. And the next time you're in a scenario, take a breath on it and try to look at it from the perspective of the entire room. Take that like fly on the wall view and then come to the website, come to seethingsdifferently.org and go into the resources and educate yourself and start a conversation. Because that's what it's all about. If I can help people become the best version of themselves, see things differently. That's what I want. And I will be
Absolutely.
happy doing that.
I
Mhm.
love it. So, folks, we've had another great, awesome, and amazing, as Dr. Anne Marie, I think I will adopt that terminology, conversation rather than interview,
Thank you.
because that's what they are. And this has been an amazing conversation, very eye opening, very refreshing. And so, again, another great conversation with Dr. Anne Marie. And I will see you all on the flip side. Bye, everyone.
Bye.